The Cape Cod Commission meeting of Thursday, June 9, 2011 is called to order. And the first item of business will be the roll call. Peter?
Barnstable, Royden Richardson.
Present.
Bourne, Michael Blanton. Brewster, Elizabeth Taylor.
Present.
Chatham, Lynn Pluffner.
Here.
Dennis, Richard Roy.
Here.
Eastham, Joy Brookshire.
Here.
Falmouth, Mario Di Gregorio.
Present.
Harwich, Robert Bradley.
Here.
Mashpee, Ernest Virgilio. Orleans, Leonard Short.
Here.
Provincetown, Austin Knight.
Here.
Sandwich, Joanne O'Keefe. Truro, Peter Grant. Here. Wellesley, Roger Putnam.
Here.
Yarmouth, John McCormick Jr.
Here.
County Commissioner, Mary Pat Flynn.
Here.
Minority Representative, John Harris. Native American Representative, Mark Harding. Governor's appointee, Herb Olson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda is public comment. There is none. The next item is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Nesbitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to thank the members of the commission that came to the retreat 2 weeks ago at the Credible Conference Center. I think we had a great day. The morning was focused a lot on process, so who we are, what we do, how we do it, and in the afternoon we talked about wastewater and economic development and a little bit of wind. So it was a good meeting. And if anyone has any questions about it, we all had all the information that we gave out at the retreat is in a folder with your name on it if you haven't picked it up. Additionally, that week there was an ocean outfall symposium that was sponsored by Webner at the Yarmouth Realtors Association, and it was very well attended. And the discussion there was to look at the potential use of ocean outfall pipes as one of the wastewater solutions that we may have on the table. And so we spent all day with some very informative discussions. The MWRA was there. They talked about their outfall pipe. I spoke at the end and informed everybody that the year out of law school, I had sued the MWRA over their construction of their outfall pipe. So there were a lot of different points of view in the room. But the bottom line on the outfall pipe is that it's extraordinarily difficult to regulate. And even if on a blackboard it looks like it may save you some money by having to sewer fewer homes, the regulatory hurdles are enormous. Unless you're a community that has used an outfall pipe in the past or has some remnants of an outfall pipe, a variance isn't even really possible, so it takes some sort of legislative change. But it's good to sort of put those issues on the table, have a public discussion, and then move forward. And I think Webner serves a great purpose to the community having those kind of educational forums. And then finally, we just returned from Washington. On Tuesday, we were given an award. The Cape Cod Commission was given an award for the regional policy plan by the Environmental Protection Agency. And we were recognized as one of 12 awardees nationally out of hundreds of applications for their Clean Air Excellence Awards. That looked at the energy section of the regional policy plan that you all did, particularly the part that required new development to produce 10% of its energy on site. And they really liked that. And what they liked about it is that it's a very replicable program and has been used in other parts of the state, is looking at other parts of the country that are looking to a similar kind of standard. So it was an honor. It's always good to be recognized for the hard work that you do. And so we got to go down, meet the assistant administrator, and have a little ceremony. But I really wanted to recognize Ryan Christenberry, who's in the office, who's in the audience today, because she is really the brains behind the outfit. And we also worked really hard on that regional policy plan. But it was Ryan who came up and said, "I think we can do this. I think it makes sense, and I think it'll work." And she was right. So I thank you. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. The minutes of the May 12th meeting need to be moved and approved.
I'll move the acceptance of the minutes of May 12th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. The next item on the agenda will be the election of the new officers for the coming year. And Elizabeth, you will have to represent the nominating committee again, if you will please do that.
A slate of officers was presented at the last meeting. It will be Peter Graham will be serving as chairman, Michael Blanton as vice chair, and myself as secretary, since no one else evinced any interest in doing that, except now John Harris told me he'd do it too, so I got there first. So that's our slate of officers.
Thank you very much. And there were no further nominations after the announcement last time, so I will entertain a motion that the
Move the nominations be closed. Second.
Moved and seconded that the nominations be closed. Interesting point, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then I will accept a motion that the officers as outlined by the nominating committee be elected.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous vote. And we have a very good slate of officers, and we'll really go places. Okay. Next is the public hearing. Is there a... Yeah, do you have that?
Public hearing notice, Cape Cod Commission, amendments to Technical Bulletin 09-002, DRI Guidelines for Energy Compliance, both June 9th, 2011. Cape Cod Commission, the Commission, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, June 9th, 2011, beginning at 3 p.m. in the 1st District Courthouse Assembly of Delegates Chamber, Route 6A, Barnstable, Mass. At this hearing, the Commission will consider proposed draft amendments to Technical Bulletin 09-002, Development of Regional Impact Guidelines for Energy Compliance.
Thank you. And Brian Christenberry for the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Ryan Christenberry, planner with the Commission. I'm here to present to you the Planning Committee and staff's recommendations for revisions to the Energy Technical Bulletin. These revisions are primarily to get the bulletin up to speed with recent amendments to the RPP. Those amendments do not include the wind standards that were recently adopted. Those will be developed under a separate bulletin. These revisions include updates to the incentives, both state and federal, that the energy standards reference for renewable energy. Those programs have changed a little bit, so we wanted to update that for potential applicants. We wanted to make some improvements to the narrative and also to reflect that one of the NPSs as originally adopted in the 2009 RPP has been deleted. So that bulletin has not until now, with these proposed changes, reflected that revision to the RPP. I've given these to you in your packets in a red line format, so you could easily follow and discuss in as much detail as you'd like some of these revisions, or with the chair's direction, we could tackle it however you'd like.
All right. Shall we proceed line by line in terms of red line by red line? Is that what you're proposing?
If that's what you wish to do, we could do that. There's quite a few changes in here.
I think we've gone Four, two.
The planning committee has reviewed these changes, made some additional recommended revisions during their meeting on this issue. Those have been incorporated here. And we did go through them line by line with the planning committee.
I'm not proposing that necessarily. Would it be appropriate to go line by line with the planning committee's recommendations?
Maybe it would be a better use of time if I responded to any specific questions that anyone had.
Anybody have any specific questions? Mary?
I do on page 1, at the bottom of the page, the applicability of standards. I noticed in some of the language in the document that you...
Would you use your microphone, please?
It's on, maybe. Is that better?
Yeah.
I noticed in the document that oftentimes words or phrases that are qualifying have been removed. Usually, I mean, a lot of the red lines in some cases relate to qualifying statements. And in that first sentence under applicability of standards in the second line, it says apply to the review of most DRI projects. And I guess I wonder why most? Why not? I mean, what is most and what is least? How would that be defined?
That's a good question. The energy standards are intended to apply to commercial buildings. So for instance, if we had a DRI come through that was a residential subdivision, these standards wouldn't apply. If it were a DRI for some form of outdoor commercial that didn't specifically deal with a commercial building, these standards wouldn't apply. So the guidance is intended to direct applicants toward their specific type of project, which would be a commercial building. Does that answer your question?
Well, I guess reading it and not being completely familiar with it, I would question, well, what does most mean? If I were applying for something, how would I know if my project was going to be under the category of a most project or one that probably would not be reviewed?
I think that that's a comment that we've gotten in the past, and it may be something that we need to address in the RPP, have some sort of qualifying language in the energy section that reads that projects, maybe Jessica has some more comments to offer on this. Sure. Yeah. Jessica's suggestion is that we could amend the applicability of standards to be more specific about which types of DRI thresholds would require review under the energy standards.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding this document? Well, are we ready for a motion, Peter?
I'll move that they be approved with the
Microphone, please.
amendment. I'll move that they be approved with the amendment.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay, you'll have to say it a little louder for me, please. Okay, thank you. We need to close the hearing and the record.
Move to close the hearing and the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, Brian?
I will move that we accept the revision of Technical Bulletin 09-002 DRI guidelines for energy compliance with the amendment that's been proposed.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Elizabeth.
I just have a question. What changes are going to be made relative to Mary Pat's question? Is that going to have to come back in front of us?
I think it could be a fairly simple, straightforward change that either, and I can discuss with Jessica the best way to do it, which either references the DRI thresholds that would apply to a project subject to the energy standards, or it could be a simple line
stating that commercial projects that trigger any one of the DRI review thresholds are subject to the energy standards.
I think it would be
helpful, excuse me, if it does reference the fact that you're talking about commercial and not residential, unless we want to leave that open.
We do have a multifamily residential standard that applies into the energy section, so we would make that specific reference in addition to the commercial.
Thank you.
Paul?
Is, for a point of clarification, the section in question is the goal, right? The goal section?
No, I believe it's the applicability of standards section in the technical
All
book.
right, so there's generally been an effort to try to make these things readable in a general sense, but I think instead of identifying that most might be, we can identify that commercial buildings are subject to. It leaves still some room for interpretation, but I think we can go back and I think we can make that change without coming back here. We can make that right now. So when you vote, if you make a motion, you can make it as amended. We'll make sure that most is removed and that commercial buildings are put in the right context, the right syntax.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all acceptable? Okay. All in favor then will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Is there any abstention? There is none. All right. Next thing is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy report. There's no hearing notice, and Leslie Richardson, staff, in this matter.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Leslie Richardson, and I'm the Economic Development Officer for the Cape Cod Commission. I am here today to present the annual report of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. The strategy was adopted in 2009, and this is just a report on its implementation. So the SEDS is the foundation of the SEDS is in the regional policy plan and in the Act. It doesn't stand in isolation from the other planning documents that govern the Cape Cod Commission. All of the activities under the SEDS have to comply with the regional policy plan growth policy, which is that development should occur in areas where infrastructure can handle the impacts. The economic development strategy understands economic development and business development as the opportunity to bring economic growth to a region, to diversify an economy. As a governmental entity, the Cape Cod Commission focuses primarily on infrastructure and on creating a positive regulatory environment for the businesses to prosper. Organizations like the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce and other partners, the Community Development Partnership and Technology Council, focus more on business attraction and business retention efforts, which are also part of economic development, but not as much part of what governmental entities do, although we do provide assistance to these organizations. The economic development section of the RPP and the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy are based on 4 basic principles of economic development. The first is that you protect the golden goose and that you use the resources of that efficiently. So you protect what is valuable in your community, what your competitive advantage is. And for the Cape, that's our environment. You also foster balance and diversity in your economy, and you expand the opportunities for regional wealth. So that's basically the economic pie. You want to bring in money into the region to expand the pie, and you want that pie to be available to a diverse array of people in the community. So those principles are underlying the 4 goals of the regional policy plan, which are also the 4 goals of the comprehensive development strategy. The first is to have low impact and compatible development, protect that which is our competitive advantage, to have a balanced economy, to see regional income growth, that's the size of the pie, and to ensure that we have infrastructure capacity in order to allow businesses to prosper in the community. In addition to that, the SEDS has a goal of regional collaboration and joint commitment, which you'll see has been the cornerstone of this program so far. So the SEDS 5-year plan was completed in 2009. That was completed under the guidance of the Strategy Committee, which is the Cape Cod Economic Development Council, in addition to the Cape Cod Commission. It was organized around the concept of 5 different working groups. One was business development, one was business climate, one was workforce development, another was infrastructure development, and then finally industry sector development. And those 5 work groups were made up of 61 different representatives from 61 different organizations, with over 100 people participating in those 5 work groups, as well as a couple of focus groups that looked at their work. So prior to the SEDS process, we had a lot of different activities happening around the Cape, and previous SEDS reports had basically inventoried all of those activities. But with these 5 work groups, we really brought it together under the RPP goals, and we increased the amount of participation in this planning process significantly. So we did the plan in 2009. We are currently in the implementation phase, which is supported again by the Strategy Committee, which is the Economic Development Council for Barnstable County. And then each year we evaluate the plan and revise it slightly and resume implementation. So the SEDS annual report is made up of a variety of different sections. One of the sections that changes the most is the context section, so I was going to go through a few highlights from that, and then I was going to address the action plan, which is the other section that changes the most. So the context is what is this community like? We have a population of about 216,000. That's down slightly from the previous census, but only by about 3%, 6,000 residents. We have had incredible growth over the past 5-6 decades, and that characterizes many of the issues that you see in the SEDS. About half of our population is in the workforce. Within that workforce, 9.2% of us are unemployed. Healthcare is our largest industry sector on the Cape, with 17.4% of employment. Retail follows that with 16.7% of employment, which is followed then by accommodations and food service, which is 16.1%. And that's a slight switch from previous years. Healthcare has moved to the top, whereas retail and accommodations have been at the top prior to that. The average annual wage is still lower than the state and the nation at $38,970. That's for covered employment, so that's not all employment. That's employment that is covered by the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. And then per capita income is higher at $50,000, which shows that there are certain outliers on the higher end on the Cape. We have, despite a population drop, we have a 9% increase in housing units over the previous census, and 35.5% of that are seasonal houses, up 32%, excuse me. The action plan is made up of quite a few different elements. One is economic development planning, and under that is the implementation of the regional policy plan through both our planning actions and our regulatory standards, as well as an effort to obtain economic district designation, economic distress district designation for the County of Barnstable from the Economic Development Administration at the federal level. Then we also do some research. We try to reach out to all of our partners and disseminate the work that we do through outreach. We have data dissemination efforts primarily through our website, Stats Cape Cod. And then we work on regional priority projects and then do reset projects for towns, and I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail. So data dissemination, again, is primarily through Stats Cape Cod. In the coming year, we'll be focusing on disseminating the Census 2010 data. We'll also be finalizing our town profiles and adding to them as different data becomes available. We are going to develop some time series profiles and then continue to build our regional benchmarks. The research that we have underway today is a business survey. The survey is on the street right now. We are doing our second mailing to try and to get further responses. And that'll give us a good idea of the nature of businesses on Cape Cod, and then some of their concerns regarding the the future of development on Cape Cod. Outreach, we've been working a lot with our regional partners. This is just a few of them. We do everything from joint projects to being on the board of different organizations to providing some financial support in some cases. One of the funnest collaborative projects that we've done this spring is the Smarter Cape Summit, in which the Cape Cod Commission, with the support of the EDC and the Open Cape Corporation, the Technology Council, and the Chamber of Commerce all worked together to put together a conference in a record short period of time that I think was a good success. And then the central part, the real meat of the Cape Cod Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, are the 18 regional priority projects. We started out with 16. We've added some during the annual review last year. Here's a list of them. They range from infrastructure projects to technical assistance projects to planning projects. The technical assistance projects are largely business development projects, so the Commission isn't as involved in those, but the planning and the infrastructure projects are ones that the Commission is more involved in. One of the infrastructure projects is Renewable Energy Generation Program. The DCPC is really a vital step towards enabling wind generation to occur in the coastal waters around Cape Cod. It'll provide a framework for that activity to occur. Coastal Use Templates for Economic Development is a planning and research project. We have completed the first phase, where we did case studies of 5 different harbors on Cape Cod, and did an evaluation of what the coastal economy was, and also what some of this barriers and benefits different harbors had to economic development in that area. The Economic Center cost analysis, we've completed the secondary research phase, and now we really need to do the primary research phase on this and get some builders and developers and to talk to us about why it is that it's so much less expensive to develop on the outskirts of town or in green fields than it is to develop in economic centers where the growth policy would prefer development to occur, or we would prefer development to occur. The Regional Redevelopment Authority feasibility study, we've completed a whole series of case studies, and we've also sketched out a framework for a regional financing authority, which is slightly different. But that is looking at ways to redevelop or see areas redeveloped that are underperforming, or to provide infrastructure to those areas for redevelopment. Entrepreneurship and capital access and training is really a business development program, so we've mostly been involved in coordinating a collaborative process in this case. There's a connectivity team associated with entrepreneurship, associated with this project, that has 6 or 7 different organizations that touch entrepreneurs at one point in time through the process. And they have developed a more integrated system whereby they track entrepreneurs and help them as they go through and develop their business plans and start getting their funding and get themselves underway. Similarly, the Buy Local Infrastructure Development Program is really on the ground working with businesses, business development. So we have focused on pulling together the different partners that are working in this area, of which there are many, and trying to see if there's any kind of overarching regional program that we can pursue. We are looking right now at piloting a smartphone application that would help local growers to connect with buyers and consumers. So if that goes well, that would be regionalized, potentially go national as well. Then the Canal Area Assessment and Transportation Improvement Project, one of the new projects added in 2010, is also a part of our regional transportation plan, and we'll be working on that in the upcoming year. Waste minimization, reduction, reuse, and recycling. We put together a pay-as-you-throw workshop this spring that was very well attended. We're working on a proposal right now to get a staff person that can assist towns in looking at their waste reduction, reuse, and recycling. So again, it's really been project team development that we've focused on. And then finally, the Smarter Cape Initiative, which is really about how we use information and data, how we turn data into useful information in order to manage our infrastructure systems better. And one of the central parts of that is the establishment of a strategic information office at the county, which we are in the sort of investigative stages of doing. And then announced at the Smarter Cape Summit was the Center for Innovative Water Technology, which is sort of, essentially an incubator / center of excellence for water technology that the Regional Technology Development Center announced, and we are in support of, and they are currently trying to develop resources to see that through. And then finally, RESET, which stands basically is the team that executes the economic development strategy at a town level. So we go into towns in a coordinated fashion using all of the resources of the Commission to tackle specific problems. And so this year we're really focusing on Bourne and possibly Sandwich to help them really push forward certain programs. Buzzards Bay has been working on a growth incentive zone for a while, and they have serious wastewater issues that they need to address. So we've just, well, Paul, you can talk about, I think the selectmen have decided to go with the scope of work that we put together to do.
I thought this was your presentation.
We always do it in tandem. I need to.
The selectmen are also the board of sewer commissioners in Warren, and they met on Tuesday night. We've been working with the wastewater planning committee on the north side, so we presented a scope of work to them that they were very pleased with on Tuesday. So I think that's a step forward, and wastewater knits through almost everything that we're talking about up there. So it's a good central hub to be involved with, and we're going to talk to the planning board tonight. I hope that goes as well.
Great. So that is what is included in the SEDS this year and our plan going forward. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of information.
Time for questions, folks? Yes.
I'm hoping that the Commission is really going to get involved with pay-as-you-throw, because I know there was a discussion in Brewster the other night and sort of a lukewarm response because there are a lot of naysayers. And I guess Sandwich just did it. I emailed Paul Tilton and he sent me back a bunch of websites to check out. But it seems silly for every town to try and reinvent the wheel, because I think the pros and cons are probably going to be about the same in each town. It would be really nice if the Commission was behind this. We could provide support and maybe even grant monies or monetary support on something like that?
Yes. Patty Daly has been leading up the effort with solid waste coordination in order to negotiate the contract with CMAS. And so that's taken up a lot of our sort of focus there. But it's been a great opportunity to work regionally and collaboratively with the 15 towns. Well, I mean, Torrance got the landfill, and Brewster, ironically, they broke from the pack on that CMAS deal. So, but that will continue forward. I think we just got some DEP funding. So they're going to give us a person to look at recycling efforts down there and move forward. There has been some experience with pay-as-you-throw. Barnstable tried it. Where it's been tried on a voluntary basis, it hasn't really been successful. So it has to be a mandatory program. That's what Sandwich is moving in that direction right now. So we hope to learn a lot more and come up with a program that's replicable regionally. But you'll see a lot more focus from the Commission on the whole zero waste initiative.
I had one other question. I recently got an email about a new program to the state, and I don't know if I have the name right. I just remember Mass Work. But they have put together one site where you go for grants on housing, infrastructure, job development, economic development, and I think you use one application for any one of these different areas. And I'm wondering if the Commission can get involved in that and maybe get a whole bunch of money that the towns can then apply for those different things.
No, it's a great program the state did to consolidate what used to be CDAG, PWED, and it's just a big bowl of alphabet soup from all the different parts of the administration, but all of them really geared towards infrastructure improvements. And a lot of those grants, the Cape Towns avail themselves of regularly. So that program is very conducive to our reset program, which is to land in a town, give them people to work on a project for 6 months, and then, it's always great to have the plan, but in order to go from plan to implementation, you need the money. And so CDAGs, PWEDs, that whole grant program has been a source for getting a lot of that work implemented. And we're hopeful now that it'll be easier to do that with that coordinated program. So I know the state's been down and has given a little bit of a presentation on that. We could probably bring them down and have them make a presentation to the Commission possibly, so that you'd have an opportunity to ask them questions directly about that, and then you can bring that back to inform your towns.
Yes.
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. When we talk about redevelopment, I'd just like to reiterate Yarmouth's approach to redevelopment. We realized, of course, that we had to find some vehicle to allow redevelopment. And in the rezoning process, we built in a number of segments. If it was going to be mixed use or top of the shop housing, there had to be an affordable element in it. And in all cases, we made sure that we had a say in the ultimate architectural design. And Yarmouth has established Yarmouth's architectural and site design standards, which are basically based on Phil Dascom's standards that were approved by the Commission. So I just wanted to emphasize the fact that when you talk about redevelopment, it might be important to see if you can implement some design standards as well.
People judge success sometimes in how it looks. Are there any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a follow-up from last year's report also. And I see there was some additional information to it. But you mentioned the unemployment part of it, the unemployment conversation. However, I know within our town and many of the other towns, there's a vast number more that will not go after unemployment because they're truly seasonal workers that will not qualify for that. And that also puts the strains, which I believe the Cape Cod Times may have had an article today, or certainly there's been other articles about housing when you talk about seasonal workers and the stress that we have on the Cape for the businesses, because I think there's a huge percentage that we're still missing out of this report. I know last year we talked about this also, and I see a little more this year. But there is a whole chapter just in this that we're still not addressing, and that certainly is the seasonal economy, which is the state, I think, calls it the number 2 economy in this Commonwealth. And so if the number 2 industry in the Commonwealth, I would presume or hope at some point the commission as well as the towns would get together and really start to help with more planning and more development. So every year we're not into the same stresses and strains, because this is a direct effect in the water, in the sewer, in the housing, in the congestion, all of it. And it may only last for 4 months, but the strain on the municipalities, and I can say this because I sit as a selectman in town and see the strain in the municipalities, both in the public safety, the trash, solid waste, the sewer, the water, all of it. That strain in that 4 months is enormous. And I would hope at some point we can incorporate a little bit more of this, because this is the backbone of the whole economic base of Cape Cod, and it lasts in this 4 months. So I hope in the future we can expand a little bit more to try to get that, because I got a report just last week in our town, and it's over 70% of second homeowners now, of which, you know, we have a strict conversation going on with the state about some of the challenges that we have in that area. And you know, I see a report where it says one number, which is as a whole, but I think if you really start to really look at that, the accuracy comes from 30% people responding. However, you got 70% who haven't, and that's where the numbers really are. And I'm not trying to challenge your findings, because you've done the best you can for those who've responded. But we have to somehow come up with a way that, and I understand you're doing part of the studies now when people are going crazy just trying to get going, and their chance of responding to you is much lesser now than maybe a month earlier or in September or October. But I know in order to do the numbers, you have to be able to do it. So I again plead with you again this year, as I did last year, that we really have to look at this link, because it is a major part here on Cape Cod and any of the other towns in Massachusetts that fall into the same category. And maybe we have to start partnering up with some of those other towns and some of our information, so we can come up with strong solutions for all of us. Thank you.
That's a good point, Austin. So we are in our second year of our partnership with the EDC, and it has allowed us to take really, you know, where the commission used to have information was in sort of an 18th century format. And so we've been able to bring that and update. Now we have Stats Cape Cod. We've worked with the state of Indiana. Leslie's done a lot of work on that to get that up and running. And so we're starting with the big data set. So we've got the federal census data, now we've got the new census data, then the applicable state data, then what's available for the county data. But the real value to the websites is the value added that we can put on locally. And so we're trying to augment that with the second homeowner survey and the business survey that's out there now. So that's exactly the direction that we have to go in. And so in order to have a regional policy plan that's responsive, and also to be more competitive for some of the grant money that we know that's out there.
And may I just add to that, Paul? A lot of the grants that we apply for in town are based on year-round, which means even though we have tremendous pressures in 4 or 5 months of the year, we are eliminated because they base it on numbers year-round, not those numbers where we have 50,000 people moving in a week. They base it on a 2,500, 3,000 population. And that's where, as a commission, we have to organize ourselves a little more all around, really start to challenge both the state and federal government, so we really get what's due us rather than, the long formula.
And part of our work with the Federal Economic Development Agency right now is to get the Cape designated as an economic development district. Mm-hmm. And part of what we need to do with the feds in order to convince them is to go into this sort of seasonal nature of the economy and quantify this. So I think that's a good exercise for that. And I'm hopeful that within the next 18 months or so we'll wind up with a district designation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? We need to move to say thank you to Leslie. It's a very fine report.
And to approve the report for mailing of the economic
And that
development.
we approve the report for mailing.
I'll make that motion.
The motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I think
Microphone, please. She's out of
I
practice.
just think the studies and the statistics that you come up with are really interesting. And you see how the Cape's complexion just keeps changing and changing year after year. And now we're getting the reasons why young families are leaving. We always knew that they were, but the specific reasons and for the housing. And this is just This is like a library for almost anybody who's working with any organization on the Cape. And it's not that big, but it's just so filled with good information.
We all appreciate everything you've done, Leslie, and also those who have worked with you. Okay, are we ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other business that anybody has? Well,
Mr. Chairman, as you all know, Roy will be passing the gavel to Peter at the next meeting. And I just want to recognize at the end of this one that it's rare in life you get to work with someone that you have so much, that you have respect and admiration for. I've been fortunate enough to work twice now. When Roy was the president of the Barnstable Town Council and I was the assistant town manager, and now he's chaired the commission. And it's been an honor to work for you, not only because I respect and admire you, but also because of the love and affection that I have for you. So, having said that, I don't expect anything to change. But as the gavel is passing, I just want to recognize the fact that your tenure here with this agency has been in keeping with the highest standards of the Cape Cod Commission. I want to thank you for your service.
thank you. What do you say? That's very nice of you, and I appreciate having had the opportunity to work with you. I will continue to work with you. And also, as far as the Cape Cod Commission is concerned, I came at the commission, with a lot of the preconceived ideas that a lot of people in our community has, and I was very, very heartened to find out what kind of an organization this was. And when you get to my stage of development, having done a lot of different things, you sometimes have the idea that maybe you know everything. And if you come to the Cape Cod Commission, you find out quite suddenly you don't. And I think one of the values of the Cape Cod Commission is that it causes us to think. And a lot of people resist thinking, but I really have appreciated that opportunity. So, and I'm going to sit on the other side of Peter over there and wrinkle the paper. It's been fun, Peter. You're a good guy. And Elizabeth,
Once again,
yeah, not once again. You always manage to bring something new to whatever position you have, no matter how many times. But I've really enjoyed working with you, and the insight and knowledge that you have, like that, you make me feel inadequate. Maybe I am, but anyway. And I think the star, I used to be a minister, we used to call it a star in our crown of rejoicing. Anyway, it's the staff, and thank you all very much. I guess we can, any of the Cape Cod Commission member comments? I don't see any. I think we can have an adjournment. Move.
So moved.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Good.